Hey, everybody. Um, we're back. It's the first time we've done a podcast in a long time, but I'm Rocky McVeigh, and I'm here with my co-host,
Roland Robinson.
Roland Robinson. And it's the first time we've done a podcast in a while. You may remember us from the Geek Night podcast. But we're back. This podcast is actually unnamed at the moment, but it'll have a name by the time you guys listen to it.
We hope it will, anyways.
Yeah, we hope so. But there's only one thing going on right now. It's where everybody's quarantined. Uh, Roland really is quarantined. He's had to stay
Yeah,
home for like 2 weeks.
I've been stuck. I'm on day 12 of a 14-day quarantine right now. For those of you who don't know, um, I came down. Well, no one would know because no one's talked to me in forever, except unless you're one of my close friends. I came down with a viral respiratory infection about 2 weeks ago. Uh, Needless to say, the doctor didn't think it was the Rona and sent me on a two. He's like, you're fighting a viral infection that's a respiratory infection. You don't need to be in the public at all. So he basically just sent me home for 14 days.
Yeah.
So that's
and how long? So when do you go back to work? When? How many more
Saturday.
days? So
two,
you're like,
2 more days.
so you're not only quarantined, very short amount of time left. So you'll be back out there with the Rona again.
Yeah. And sadly, I do work with the public, so basically you just got to make sure you do the social distancing and wear what PPE you got, and just be smart about it.
Which I'm also an essential worker, but I have been halfway working from home and halfway working from the office because of uh, because of what I do. I'm in IT, by the way, but because of what I do, I have to go to the office sometime and deal with a few things. Like today, for the last 2 days straight, I've had to go in the office, but I come back home as soon as I can because I would rather be at home. I've self quarantined my whole life, so this really, honestly, this really hasn't changed my routine much, other than the fact that I get to come home for work instead of having to go to work every day. That's the only
I
thing that's
gotta,
changed.
I gotta say it. Nothing's really changed that much for me since I moved with my job. Um, Needless to say, like we used to do, we used to be in a recording studio when we do the podcast. Now we're doing this obviously via remote.
Yeah,
Not only because of the coronavirus, but because of just simply the distance between us now.
yeah, quite a distance away now, a few hours.
And needless to say, I am in the hot spot of the state for all this stuff too.
Yeah, but we're also
We're actually the best state to be in right now, technically, in my opinion, for this
well,
stuff. Because
there's some better states. I don't know if they're better as far as like how many people has the virus anyway.
cases,
But we're in Kentucky, and I do believe that our governor is doing a very good job
absolutely.
and keeping our cases down. Like so, I give him props. Didn't know how he would do when I did vote for him, but I didn't know how he would do when I voted him in. All I knew was I didn't want the other guy back because he was a piece of shit. So
Yeah, I think that's really how he actually got in. The other guy was a awful choice
exactly. So,
and had pretty much pissed off the entire state.
but Bashir has proven himself to be the good choice now that he's in there, and this, especially when this started happening, he's proven that he can do a good job.
He's handled it. Well, you got to think too. This busted out with what he's in his third month of being governor, and all of a sudden a national emergency hit. Which, in my opinion, he was handled it fantastically because as soon as the state got one case of it, bam. All right, so we're going to be under a national emergency, state of emergency for the.
It's the way the whole country should have handled it. It may have not been as bad as it is right now, but
Well, we have surpassed every country. America is number one.
this is a horrible thing to be number
reason.
one.
It is.
Well, we finally hit number one in something. It's been a while since we were number one in something, and we did it on the worst possible thing. But
another thing too, the a lot of people are, really praising our governor for the way he's actually handled it and the way Kentucky is leading the way in a lot of things as far as trying to social distancing and things like that. But his 5 o'clock, the 5 o'clock Andy time that a lot of people talk about. I think the way he has handled himself through this whole thing with his speaking, the way he's implemented it. If you look at some political figures, I believe that you can see some of them taking verbal cues from him. Now, maybe that's just me being, doing wishful thinking, but I can kind of see some of the some politicians actually taking cues from Mr. Beshear.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and I think that Kentucky is better for it. And I won't talk about politics too much on here, but other than this, but I will say that I am very happy with how he's handled it, and I wish. And this podcast is going to be not political, but it's going to go with what we're going to go over some things. And I wish that everyone would shut the fuck up and do what he says. Because, but with some of the stuff this podcast is going to be a Rona podcast, and we're going to go over the crazies out there. And you're a lot of you people out there is fucking nuts. Now, I'm not going to say that all of it isn't. Some of it,
I think, is founded.
Some of it you could agree with at some point, but a lot of it is insane, and some of it's just piggybacking on old conspiracies and then just brought themselves along. Well, with that said, let's talk about the first one. The first one I want to talk about, anyways, and it's the big one.
Ahead.
I want to talk about 5G towers because this one is fucking crazy to me.
Yeah, a lot of people, ever since, I guess, the advent or the increasing popularity of 5G started, I think a lot of people have just went crazy with it. I cannot understand why people have lost their ever-loving minds as bad as they have with this.
Like, I don't understand why it's 5G in particular. I mean, there's been like 3G, there's been 4G, all that. There's been LTE. Like, why did 5G become the one that it made everybody insane?
Now, this is me speculating, because when it first started, I would pop up in my feed on media, and it would be like, oh, 5G's this. So I wanted to check it out. From what I can tell, it's mainly because they're not saying that 4G and 3G are healthy. Those have messed your mind up already, according to them. Okay. I think the concern is from microcell sites, meaning that there's a cell site on every single city block for 5G, because most of the deployment of 5G has not been able to actually go on cell towers like 4G has. 5G is going to be a much shorter broadcasting length, so they're having to put repeaters up every so often.
You have to have it. 5G is like got a short broadcast length. So
yeah, and so they're saying that since the broadcasting length is so short, and you're having so many repeaters, that's where a lot of the mental health issue comes up. Or not mental health, but health issues.
So if you don't know about this conspiracy, it's been around since we started talking about 5G, pretty much. Like as soon as we started talking about 5G, people were going insane and saying that they were going to kill you with 5G. But since coronavirus has came about, they've kind of like piggybacked it into the coronavirus, and there's I've heard like multiple different conspiracy theories with this. The first one I've heard is that it just gives you coronavirus. Not sure how that's possible, but there's people saying that. And then the second one I've heard, and this one also piggybacks on another conspiracy theory that has to do with another that we'll talk about here in a minute, but that the China created this as a bioweapon. And since China pretty much has all of the main, in most of the world anyways, is it, what's the name of the company? What's the Chinese company that America banned?
Huawei.
Huawei. They have most of the 5G towers around the world, like all through Europe and China, of course. Like it's all done by them. So the other theory is that they created the virus, and then when you get next to a 5G tower, that's what activates it. So it's already in you, and then the 5G, the signal.
I've also heard that I've also heard that the 5G is what triggers the death. What triggers, you can survive corona, but the 5G is what kills you with the corona. They're using the 5G as the kill switch, which is ridiculous.
Well, let's talk about the real crazy thing about this. Motherfuckers are burning 5G absolutely. Towers to the ground.
You know, I got to say this. Most people with conspiracy theories will talk the talk. These guys are walking the walk as well. I mean, literally just burning them.
Which makes this conspiracy much greater than the other ones, in my mind, anyway. I'm like, burning those motherfuckers down. You're out there and you don't give a shit. And it's everywhere. Britain apparently has been hit really bad by this, though, because the British government has been putting out just speech after speech, like every other day. They're like, stop burning towers.
You know, that's sad that we live in 2020, and it's like people have just lost their ever loving mind over this.
I don't know. I love it. I love this. This is like my favorite thing that's going on right now. When I first heard about this, I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And
well, David Icke got in on this as well. Speaking of Britain and all that, he actually got in. It was in the BBC News. I was looking it up before we went live. Had got in on this actual debate, and he was more or less just condoning it, because he said if 5G gets everywhere that they want it to be, human life is pretty much over. And they had talked about what he was thinking about people attacking the 5G towers, and he was just like, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Now, if any of you do not know who David Icke is, he is the person that has millions, and I mean millions of people all around the world believing that our overlords are lizard people that come from underground.
Now, here's the funny thing about that. He is, since this whole 5G, or since the whole coronavirus thing, he has actually laid off of the whole reptilian thing and has switched it over to the NWO, the Illuminati, the Cabal.
Not the too sweet like I'm wearing, but the
yeah. They're saying that it's a cabal of people that have decided it is time to thin the herd. And a lot of these conspiracy theories all go back to that.
They do.
So
they're all like about pretty much thinning the herd. That's what they all believe that, and they all it's the most plausible of all the things, I have to say. Especially when you put the Chinese government with it. They've been about thinning the herd for a long time.
Well,
Although
here's the
now
other
they're at the
thing.
point where they don't want to do that anymore, so it doesn't make no sense at this point. For them anyways.
Well, with the whole David Icke thing, he also went on and said that you should not trust anyone in a position of power or authority about this subject. You shouldn't trust them because they're lying to you. Which, if you think about it, he's chiming in on this. So he's telling you not to trust him because now he's trying to assert himself as an authoritative figure. Like his whole mentality is, don't listen to what they're saying, only listen to what I say.
Now, from David Icke's point of view, I can see this as a really good thing because, like, if he doesn't speak about lizard people, like, you can speak about this new conspiracy, and you're going to get a lot of people involved there, and then you can bring them into the reptilians later on,
Well,
and he makes a lot of money talking about reptilians. Like, I
I was getting
heard that
ready
it
to say
was, wasn't it like $300 or something a ticket to go see him? Maybe more than that.
something like that. At the time that I actually researched a little bit of him, like his prices and stuff a few years ago, because I was just curious. His ticket to get in to listen to him talk a seminar was more expensive than front row seats for a Metallica concert.
Front row seat?
And he sold out. He would sell out amphitheater, like not an amphitheater, but he would sell out these theaters, all these seminars, booked, boom, done. He's made enough money that you got to give him this. He has bought into his own level of crazy to the point he has marketed it out to the masses, and people are buying it. So
Well, I
yeah,
had read that
I
just
can
here,
definitely see this.
I had read that just here in the United States, he had 2 million followers that seriously believed the reptilian theory. And that was just in the States. So how many does he have all around the world? I have no idea.
Right. We also got to think too, like you were saying, this is a great platform for him because people are listening to him now. So
Yeah.
he can run on this platform and broaden out his herd basically,
Make his
and
cult
start
bigger.
bleeding them dry for money. This is also coming from the same guy who on British television, I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, said he was the son of Christ, said he was Jesus Christ on public television.
Wonder if he's I don't know why, but that got me. Wonder if he's trying to set up to become I forget his name at the moment. Scientology. What's his name?
Xenu.
Dianetics. No, not Xenu.
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard. I wonder if he's trying to set up so he can be a new L. Ron Hubbard. Because, I mean, he's pretty much did the same
Wouldn't
thing.
surprise me.
Like, then when he dies, we'll have like a reptilian cult, just like we have the Scientology cult.
But yeah, the reptilian thing, I never really would have thought that it's gotten to that point, but it has. That is a widely accepted conspiracy theory now. I always called David Icke the turd and the punch bowl of conspiracy theorists.
It was one of the craziest ones I had ever heard, and I was really surprised when I found out how many people seriously believe it. It's like, you seriously believe it? Because there's all kinds of things go into this. It's not just for reptilians. There's like the hollow earth theory goes along with it, all kinds of stuff. Like everything that is just insane.
Well, I genuinely, I try not to buy in, really even listen to a lot of his stuff because he is so just bat crap crazy. But I do know at one point he was on the Defamation League's radar. So why conspiracy theorists? I don't understand why conspiracy theorists don't like Jewish people, but apparently that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And he was on the radar for the Defamation League at one point.
Well, at one point, I don't know if it, I don't think it's still like that. But at one point,
I don't know if it is.
but I mean, at one point, the reptilian theory was that they were all the Jews were the reptiles. They were the
Oh,
reptilians.
God.
And then I think it's evolved from then though. So now everybody is like, if you're just in power, you're a reptilian. But at one point, it was just the Jews were the reptilians because they were the one they said they were controlling the bank. So I remember that. So that's where that came from. But I think that's evolved because David Icke needed to make more money, so he had to put more people that could be reptilians into the theory.
I know he said Tony Blair was a reptilian.
Yeah, and I'd
I know
heard that
he did not like Tony Blair.
he'd put like Obama in there too back in the Obama
Mm-hmm.
days. I don't know. I've quit listening to what he was saying, so I don't know. But I'm sure he says Trump is a reptilian too. I'm sure he's not getting away from the people in power. Yeah, if he does, then he can't like put himself as the place of power if he starts saying they're not reptilians.
True. That
Okay,
actually makes me.
let's
Go
go on
ahead.
to the next one. The next one that I found, let's just put them both together because they're both kind of crazy and they're both about a specific person. Well, they're about two specific people, but they're still about specific people. So let's talk about Greta Thunberg first. The conspiracy that she created the coronavirus because of climate change.
Yes, because a 16-year-old who everyone has criticized didn't go to school and couldn't do anything can mass engineer a plague.
And just wipe us out to save us from climate change. Like,
how did this even get started?
I don't know who came up with this one, but this one is. When I heard, I was like, "What? this kid is wiping us out now because we didn't listen to her about climate change."
Well, if you think about it, I mean, it's keeping everybody indoors. The earth is healing itself.
I know
Which
that's one.
that
That's
is,
one
I
of
mean,
those.
I will say this with the coronavirus and COVID-19. If anything, if there is a couple of silver linings to it, which I would like to go over the silver linings toward the end of this. But hey, one of them, the Dolphins are going back to Italy.
Yeah, there's clear water. A lot of places have clear water. Like California, the air is like smog free almost right now because of it. Something
Which
that
is the
hasn't happened
first time,
forever. Yeah.
like our lifetime.
So there is some good things coming out of this. Okay, so that one is insane. And then this is another one that's insane, and it's about another specific person, Bill Gates. Apparently, Bill
Oh,
Gates created the coronavirus, and he has a vaccine that he already created, but he's not giving it to us yet because he wants to
why not?
thin the herd. What was that?
Thinning the herd.
Oh yeah. He wants to thin the herd, and then once the herd is thinned the way he wants it, he's going to give us the vaccine. But the vaccine's also going to contain nano trackers that he personally has the button to kill any single one of us at any moment with a press of his button. He can just pick people and murder us.
Because why not?
Why not?
Um,
Because Bill Gates, he has nothing better to do with his, trillions of dollars now. I guess he just wants to see how many people he can kill before he does.
well, now this is actual fact. Bill Gates did talk about this years ago about how America was not ready for a pandemic. I think it was, what was it, 5 years ago he talked about it? It wasn't, I can't remember how long ago it was, but he did do an interview about a pandemic and how we needed to be ready for a pandemic.
Well, he's been all about the pandemics for a long time. Like he's always helped with malaria and Ebola. So he's always been like at the forefront of
And,
diseases and trying to find cures for the diseases. And I mean, it just and
and
he
he
was
is
ready.
researching this.
Yeah, he's research. He put I forget how many billions it said that he had put toward this, but he put quite a few billions of dollars toward building entire factories that will just each one focus on a different vaccine, because there's about 15 vaccines right now being developed, and it's just basically a race to see which one is going to be the correct one and which one's going to get done fast enough. And he's, instead of like, putting all of his money behind one vaccine, he's just he spread out billions of dollars across all these. And last I heard, it was 7 different manufacturing plants he was like setting up, one for each vaccine. And he even said that he would lose billions of dollars on these, because some of these would like not work out. So he would just lose billions of dollars. But he also said that it was better that he lose billions of dollars than millions of lives will be lost because of this virus. But somehow that turned into he's going to put nano trackers in us and kill us all.
There is a couple of conspiracy theories about Bill Gates, and they all do pretty much they're almost all the same. It's just fit like the coronavirus, they just shoehorned basically most of all the conspiracy theories about Bill Gates, they just shoehorned coronavirus into it. Because all the vaccines he gives out or he researches are for global domination or thinning the herd.
Of course.
Because he's part of the Illuminati.
Well, there's so many people part of Illuminati now. Last I heard, Beyonce
Jay-Z
was part of it. And Jim Carrey, I believe,
I
is part of
mean,
Illuminati.
we got to be hip and with the kids.
Well, what's Jim Carrey doing? He's definitely not hip no more. What is he doing in Illuminati?
So here's one that I just come across, and it is really stupid. I just want to bring it up just because it's so dumb. This is all made up. This is a big marketing scheme by hand sanitizer companies or sanitization companies like Clorox or Lysol. This is all just a big buzzword media hype to get you to buy stuff. Yes, look, here's what I don't understand: is how people could even remotely get behind that one. I can't. I like conspiracy theories. I can't get behind that one.
There's
mainly because how does that even make sense? Because we're laying people off of work, so that's crashing the economy, which does the exact opposite of what these companies want, which is to sell stuff.
That one, I've heard that one, but I've only heard that one in passing. So I'm not sure if that one's really believed by too many people. I think that might just be a few people trying to put that one out there. It's definitely not a major one. Also,
that is literally dumb as shit.
There's two basically conspiracy theories though that I guess you could say is somewhat believable. And I mean, a normal person could hear these and believe them a little bit easier than any of the rest of them, especially the first one. So the first one we'll talk about is it's the flu. So this one, it's just the flu, and it's no different than any other flu, and we're just making a big deal about it. And this one sort of goes along with the Illuminati thing too. It's like a way to control us and grab more power. But
now I do know people that worked in the medical field that did before it got here. It was like, it's just the flu.
You knew people that in the medical field that said that? Because I've never met anyone myself. I've only heard random people online say that.
Before it actually got over here, and before they actually started seeing the effects when they weren't paying attention, they're like, oh, they're like, it's going to be a super, like a deadlier flu, but it's going to be pretty much exactly the same. And then once they started realizing, whoa, okay, all of those people that I know now have recanted a million times over saying that, because now they're actually seeing the people coming into the hospital and realizing that, oh, they misspoke.
So that one, I mean, that one is, you know, plausibly believable. Like people, I can see people believing it. You shouldn't, but like it's not like insane like some of these other ones. And then the next one that's believable because we may not still be in the Cold War, but Americans still pretend like we are. So this is a bioweapon created by China to wipe us out.
Well,
And they let it loose in China because they don't care about their own people. So I even like early on I was like, you never know. Like even I'll admit to this one, I was like, you never know. It is China
yeah,
after all.
this one I actually have I think I prescribe to the most out of all of them, that because of the location of where it was and where it was detected is what got me, is because when it first happened, I didn't even realize, there was a conspiracy theory about it. And I was like, I bet this is a bioterror weapon they engineered. Because, and here's what I was thinking. It was like, one, there, if I'm not mistaken, is a bioweapons research facility just north of Wuhan. This also happened in Wuhan. That research facility was also studying coronaviruses. So to me, there was like way too many variables that were in common. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, probably a duck. That was where my whole mindset came from. Plus, the Chinese government, I mean, they've not been, it's pretty historically accurate that they have not been the kindest government regime to their people. So if a regime was ever going to let something loose on their people, that's where I would start looking.
Well, the one thing we have to talk about when we talk about this, because this conspiracy theory, the major part of it, anyways, has been started by the Epoch Times. And if you don't know who the Epoch Times are, they're, I guess you'd say they're a newspaper, sort of, although they're a lot of online stuff. But they're still, I guess, they might still be a traditional newspaper as well. But uh, they're they're based out of New York City. However, they're started by a group of they got started in the year 2000 by a group of Chinese Americans that came over here, and they're all part of this spiritual movement. It's a quasi religion. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's like Falun Gong is the name of it. But this movement has been declared a cult by the Chinese Communist Party. So in China, you're a cult member if you're part of this. So they've came to America to start the Epoch Times, and the Epoch Times has been putting out a lot of stuff, like basically like promoting this conspiracy theory big time, because I mean they hate the Chinese government and they can use this to be like, this is exactly what's going on. Hate the Chinese government. So are they a cult? I don't know. I don't know enough about this spiritual movement, but I do know that in China they are considered a major cult over there right now. So, but over here, you don't really hear too much about them. But they said that exactly what you were talking about. It was Wuhan Institute of Virology. They were studying coronaviruses. They were, in particular, they were studying SARS, and they were studying another coronavirus that was found in a bat cave. And this had never been never really got out into the public before, but it was a particular coronavirus that was discovered in a bat cave, and the bats had it, but there was a local population that lived near this cave within a mile, and they were afraid that the bats would bite somebody and it would get out into the public. But they were studying this, and the virus they were studying, I will say, it does have a little extra oomph onto this with their conspiracy theory, because the coronavirus that's out right now is 96% that same virus. It's also pretty much 96% the SARS virus, which they do call it the SARS-2. It is, this real name came out as SARS-2. So but with that said, like, all the top viral experts around the world have studied this coronavirus that came out, and they're like, this is definitely not a made in a laboratory virus. This is that virus, and it's mutated somewhat, and it's been a natural mutation. It's nothing that we could have done. So it's mutated and it's got out, and it definitely came from bats, because that's what we've been told. That's where China traced it back to, was an exotic animal food plant, basically a market, and they were selling bats, and one of the bats had the virus, and that's why it's got infected. So it definitely came from bats, so we know where it came from. But I don't believe it was a biological weapon. Now, there is other conspiracy theories that say it only got out because of this institute, that they had this virus and they were studying it, and they just did a horrible job, and it just got in, and people got infected by it, and they went out in the public, and now it's out everywhere. That one is a lot more plausible than it being bioengineered, honestly, because I have a lot more the inept of people is a lot more ingrained. I know a lot of people that you know, they would, something like this would happen if they were running a lab somewhere. So
I can see that a lot more than the bioengineered. But I can also, it got slipped loose. Let's kind of monitor it and see how bad it gets. I've heard that. I've heard it was let loose as basically a population control thing for China. I heard that, which I thought was odd.
Yeah, that the whole, like, thinning the herd in China, it's like they have already done that with the one child policy. And now they did away with that because they had too many males and not enough females. So thinning the herd is a bad idea in China right at the moment. They're wanting to do away with that whole thinning the herd thing. So that kind of makes that be
how long did that go on?
It
went on for a couple generations, or what was it, 2 generations?
I'm not sure when it actually started, but it's been quite a while. They had that policy for a long time, and the policy just got reversed. Maybe like 5 years ago or something. It's been a short time period since they reversed it. But we know that this generation, the males completely outnumber the females in China, and they had to reverse it because they were just, they need more females, basically. But
so here's an interesting one. Are you ready to move on from that one? Because I think we kind of, this one's another crazy, outlandish one that has literally, it's not as bad as the hand sanitizer. Virus actually came from outer space. It's in October of 2019, a meteorite exploded in the sky over northeastern China, and a number of theorists have concluded that the meteorite must have had a virus from space. Actually, they should have tied that in to the Nicolas Cage film, A Color Out of Space, which was an H.P. Lovecraft novel for all of you that don't know, or H.P. Lovecraft story.
It's a wild movie too, by the way. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Actually, yeah, it's a really great film.
That's not something you can say about too many Nicolas Cage movies. once every like 3-4 years, he has a great one. Then he has a lot of shitty ones for another 3 years.
Yeah, I had heard, I seen that and I was like, oh, that's hilarious, because I just recently said I didn't know if 2020 was shaping up to be like a H.P. Lovecraft short story or not. There's also one, and this was one that I had actually said as a joke probably about 3 weeks ago. I said this as a joke, and apparently it is now showing up as possible conspiracy theories. The universe, or it's basically a revenge on the boomer generation.
What? Now this one I haven't heard. No, what is this one?
It's kind of messed up. Basically, it was somebody on Twitter had posted this, and it started getting like a lot of likes. They suggested the coronavirus was the universe getting back on the boomers for causing such a shit show with the world, not world health, but global warming and the general shape of the environment.
So this one kind of goes along with the Greta Thunberg theory.
Yep.
Created to destroy us because of climate change. That's I mean, I don't. Those are just. I mean, most of these are dumb. Come on, we have
They are.
even the plausible ones are still pretty much dumb. It's like, I guess we should have like a little serious and about some of the good things that came about this here at the end of the podcast. But I mean, there has been some good things come out of this.
There has.
And I think there's also going to be a lot, like just changes in general that's going to come out of this once this is over. But the good things we've had, like what we talked about earlier, California, LA, the first time in like our generation that they're pretty much smog free. Like, who would have thought that would ever happen in our generation?
Clean waters in Italy.
Yeah. Clean in Venice, like the water in Venice is like, it hasn't been this clear in over 50 years, and dolphins are now swimming through the canals again.
Yep.
Lots of places where there was just like trash everywhere in nature. It's like now it's pretty much clean because people are not going there anymore.
The ozone is starting to repair itself because there's less industry going on right now.
Yeah. I mean, and this one I'll say is not. It's not about the world in itself, but damn, gas prices are cheap right now because of this.
Not where I live. It's still close to $2 where I live.
That's still cheap.
That is cheap comparatively.
I mean, we were looking at like $5 a gallon here in Kentucky, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, like here where I'm at, it's like close to $1 a gallon right now.
Jesus.
And I've seen places where it's like is $1 a gallon, not in Kentucky, but other states. So I mean, we're talking like
here's the
dramatic drop in price on this.
So I guarantee you, summertime, winter, or toward the end of the fall, which in my prediction, which I am no shape, form, or fashion, anyone set to make a prediction for anything, but educated guess, I'm saying we're probably going to be on this till after August. it'll either, at the earliest, I would say late August is when we'll start seeing a lot of stuff being rolled back. And then we'll probably have about a month or two free before this shit pops right back up this winter, because they've already said, guess what? It's here to stay. It'll show back up in winter when the flu shows back up.
I read the Imperial College report when they put it out back in I think it was like around the 15th of March when they put it out, and that's when the UK and both the United States really started like doing straight on suppression, and when we started our lockdowns and everything. So when I read that, they recommended that we basically need to be on full on suppression until a vaccine is created. And the earliest that a vaccine could be created would be
next year.
It'll be the earliest that we're looking at is 12 months. So we're looking at like probably February or March of next year, and that's the earliest that we could have a vaccine. But most people think it could take around 18 months before it's ready. And that's
on average, it is 18 months to make a vaccine, if I remember. I think I heard Dr. Fauci talk about that.
Well, it's 14 months. You're supposed to have a 14-month testing period. So, but there's already some they bypassed some steps, but they couldn't bypass the testing period. So they were already becoming started. So they were saying it's possible that we could have one ready in 12 months. So 12 to 18 months is what we're looking at.
This is how the T virus got out. You just you rush it out and just start injecting people with it.
Are we gonna get? We're gonna have the nemesis walking around.
God, we can only hope at this point. But another good thing, I think two other things that we didn't touch on. One, I can only hope that our supply chain, a global supply chain, this has pinpointed a severe flaw in it to where we have been crippled to the point of people can't get enough of what they're trying to get because of our supply chain flaw, or is so flawed. We're relying on one nation to basically cover the entire manufacturing process of the entire world. So
well, it's also
I would like
showed,
to see something
it showed flaws in local supply chain too, because our food supply, we have an abundant supply of food, but we can't get it to all locations fast enough.
Because it's centralized, or it's not localized anymore.
So that's where so we found there's been a lot of supply chain issues with this. I actually know some people that are like managers at a grocery store, and they were telling me, like their warehouses have plenty of meat available that they can ship them. But by the time they put their order in and it gets to them, their shelves are empty. And then as soon as that order shows up, like everybody's not been able to get any meat. So they buy it all right then, and then their shelves are empty instantly. And there's just not enough coming. It's too far away from where it needs to be. And you can't get it there fast enough to supply what needs to be gotten. And it basically started, though, from a panic. I mean, if there wouldn't have been a panic, this would never happened. But the panic has shown like how bad the supply chain really is.
Yeah. Well, I had heard about this a few years back. It was in talks, not of a pandemic, but it was in talks of a EMP attack, or if something locked us down, what would we do about the food supply chain? And it pointed out the fact that nothing is localized anymore like it used to be back in our grandparents' generation. Like most of the food that you would go from at a supermarket or get from a market was all local, done at that time by local farmers. Now it's all centralized in basically the breadbasket of the U.S. that gets distributed out from there. So that was one issue. I would like to see something get done with our supply chain, and I hope this has caused that to happen. The other thing I think is a good thing is offices. We have shown now that we don't have to be crammed in an office anymore. A lot of us can do work from home. And it would be, I think it would be cheaper on companies, and you might be able to chime in on that on a personal level because you do work in IT. Would it not be cheaper and better for people to do work from home?
I actually, yeah, I mean, I've been in IT for a long time now, but I've before I had the job I have now, I was strictly worked at home. I did not. I worked for 2 years. I never went into an office. Well, I had to fly out to a few times to a couple locations, but I never had a personal office that I went to. My office was my. I really don't understand why uh, office work. Like if you're just strictly an office worker, you don't deal with the public. I don't understand why companies still have office work. Uh, it's very outdated. It's very expensive. The overhead is just outstanding, and you're just throwing money out the window when you could just send somebody home, and it's a fraction of the cost. And I mean, and it's proven that people that work from home are happier. And we proved that over the past about 5 years, we proved that not only are they happier, they actually do more work than people that go into an office.
Huh, who
Because
knows? People don't like being micromanaged.
like when you go into an office, you actually do less work than when you work at home. And now we've got, I mean, everyone's working at home that can work at home. If you're not dealing with the public, you're working at home right now, if your company's still open. And this should prove to the employers that all these facts that we've known about for the past like 5 years are facts, and you should just move these people to work at home and stop having them go in and just shut these office buildings down. Um, I don't know if it'll happen. I'm hoping that it will. I actually think that we should move this way. This is the way the world should have been moving all along. I mean, it was moving in that direction, but it just was very, very slowly. And
Very
this is
slow.
going to give it a huge push. The only problem we have with this right now, and I mean, I've seen this majorly in my line of work, is the supply chain issues. Because I mean, most computers are made in China. So when we
As
went
well,
to
most of medicine apparently too.
yeah, 90% of our medicine's made in China too. But most of our computers are made in China. So when we started sending everyone home, we wiped out just wiped it out. There was no computers to be found anywhere. I mean, I know personally, like, I mean, I deal with this every day. So we went to send people home. I mean, we had laptops and stuff some people take home, but we had this vast amount of employees that we needed to send home. And there was no way possible from any vendor that we could buy a laptop to give to one of our employees. So that forced us to keep people in the office longer because we just couldn't, there was just nothing we could buy to send them home with. And it wasn't just us. I mean, this literally happened in 3 days. Like I was looking at various different manufacturing vendors, supply vendors, and they literally had thousands of all different models of all different vendors in stock. And then come Monday morning, after the lockdown started happening, they had zero in stock of any of them. So in a 3-day period, they went from everything to nothing. And I was kind of taken aback because I wasn't expecting it because I just looked and seen like, oh, they have like, 10,000 of those in stock. And then I come in Monday and it says they have negative 5,000 in stock. So that means 5,000 more was ordered than they actually had. And that was just insane to me that happened in a 3-day time period. And it was also insane to many companies because they were like, what are we going to do? So,
So needless to say, I actually think that those little things, our environment is getting better. we're pointing out definite issues in the supply chains. And like you said, people are happier when they work from home and are more productive. Who knew that a happy employee is a productive employee? So hopefully, I think in the long haul, this will actually change the world for the better. I
Hope
really
so.
do.
Hope so. I mean, this is going to pass. I mean, 80% of everyone that catches this virus is going to be fine. You might not even know you have it. Like, it's just, I mean, most
That's
people are
correct.
asymptomatic of it. You might not even know you have it. So, I mean, this is going to pass. But what we do after it passes is what's going to show what kind of people we are. And I don't really have faith that it's going to show us to be good, though. So I don't know if you got faith in that, but I don't.
No.
I think that I seriously think
I would
that
like
this is.
to.
I seriously think that this will change the way we do things. I do think some things will change, but give it 5 years, and every single thing that we've learned during this process will be forgotten, and we'll just be going back to business as usual.
I agree. That's a sad thing to agree on, but I do agree. I don't see. I can't understand why people wouldn't want to, but more effort to change than what they would want to do. I think that we are going to see a dramatic shift at some point, though. It's late. I'm starting to ramble, so I'll just simply say I do agree with you on that. I think we're going to see eventual shift, like you're saying, but overall, in years, maybe a decade from now, people forget the lessons they learned. I mean, hell, what was it? The 20s, we had the Great Depression. Now, those people remembered everything, but we had a small recession, not even 10 years ago?
Yeah,
and we're already back to, what did we learn from that?
Well, the only thing that I can say that I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but I do see some bad times ahead of us because of the suppression.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, I'm not one of these people like we shouldn't do the suppression because of the economy, but the suppression is going to affect the economy majorly. And if the Fed's estimates of 32% unemployment by the 1st of June is accurate, that's worse than the Great Depression was. They only had, it was almost 25% during the Great Depression. This is a little different because we think that these jobs will come back as soon as we release the suppression, but we don't know that for certain. And I think a lot of these companies are going to go under, especially these restaurants.
Yeah. Well, we also don't know people's spending habits either.
Yeah.
I mean, we can gauge on data that's been collected on how people spend money or what they buy. But faced with a possible something just like the Great Depression, no one's had to go through that no recent modern economist can tell you what's going to happen because they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen once the market stops. There's some of them said we have no clue how we're going to get the market started again. So part of me's actually thought about doing what my grandpa did. Take all my money out of the bank, bury it in the backyard, and be done with it.
That would probably only work if it was gold bars. Convert it to gold. Right now, you probably should convert it to chickens or something. That would be your best bet. That's what you're going to need. If something like that happens
this is something random. I don't know if it has went up a little. McDonald's stock is actually going up. McDonald's is up to $100 and some odd cents per share right now.
Their drive-throughs are packed every time you go past the McDonald's. Like I go past one every day, like when I'm going to work, about to go to the office, and I'll tell you, they are packed. It is like all the way around the building. Of course,
Well, yeah, I mean,
and a lot of like the fast food places are like that though. But I will say the McDonald's I go beside, there's a Arby's right beside it, and the McDonald's the whole parking lot is full, like in line, and the Arby's will have like one person in it in the drive-through. So
yeah, Arby's is expensive though, man. I can get full off like $4 at McDonald's. I can't even get a sandwich for $4 at Arby's.
well, yes. Well, they got those. No, they got those. I don't know if they have it right now. Sometimes they have that 5 for $5. You get those little roast beef sandwiches. But I don't know if they have that right now. I don't know if they do that all the time or not.
But yeah, I actually checked that today this morning. I was like, I was just curious as to what McDonald's stock is, if it's shot up. And yeah, it's a little over $100 a share right now. So
And the biggest thing is going to be the small business, because the small business is where like 49% of all employment is by small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we've got, I think it's 350 million in small business loans with the last stimulus bill like put out for them. But 350 million isn't really all that much compared to all the small
when you
businesses.
look at how many businesses you have.
And a lot of them had to close down. I mean, there's a lot of people are completely out of work right now. And
I think it was it last week? 6.6 million.
Yeah.
In 1 week.
In 1 week. And I mean, it's
so I'm extremely thankful I have a job to go back to. Like, extremely thankful.
Yeah, like being an essential employee kind of sucks, but also like at least you have a job. It's one of those things.
Right now, trying to get unemployment while it is laxed, the process is an utter nightmare from what I've heard.
It's apparently, well, where we're at, Kentucky it's been bad, but Kentucky's got it going pretty good. And our unemployment numbers are way up compared to other states, but it's because that we've got it working correctly so that we can get the unemployment people, get them the claims put in.
Well, we're also a very rural country too, so we don't have a lot of businesses that are essential in this state.
Yeah. But I think for the Rona episode, I think we've talked about all the craziness, all the good parts, and all the times that we have. And this will be an ongoing podcast. We're just going to
do random stuff though.
Yeah, it's not going to be like anything set. It's not going to be like our other podcasts where we talk about certain things every week. It's going to be whatever we feel like at the moment. And today we felt like talking about crazy Corona shit. So that's what we talked about. Well, on that note, I think we're done for this week.
Absolutely.
And, we will see you again later. Rocky McVeigh signing out.
Absolutely. Guys, stay healthy, take care, and we'll see you again.
Later.